Father Antoine Garin. The first part of Garin's career in New Zealand is as Provincial of the Maorists, Procurator of the Missions, and then Missionary to the Maori near Tangataroria in the Northland of New Zealand. Garin arrived at the Bay of Islands after his lengthy voyage from France. On the map there you might see Paihia in the Bay of Islands above Kawakawa, and opposite the long bay of the Hokianga. That's where he arrived and where he joined Pompelia, Bishop Pompelia, and the Maorists missionaries working to evangelize the Maori. There since 1838, he's joining them in 1842. He writes back to the founder of the Maorists, to Father Colin, whom he knew from the college. We have a printing press and no place to set it up, no way of building one, no timber, no money to get it. This indicates how poorly financed at this stage the Catholic mission in the Hokianga is, because there is lots of timber in New Zealand. There's major timber felling going on all around the place. Their problem is they have no money to buy timber. What's to be done? Stay here until we've received money? But building in Pisa could be done without money, but how much effort and time will be needed? Pisa is rammed earth. This is building out of clay, building out of mud effectively, which is not a technique used in New Zealand because of the amount of timber available, but it was used in France. And it looks like Garin had a copy of The Art of Building by Jean Rondelet, and so he's involved with the project of building the printery for the mission in the Bay of Islands at Kororareka, the building that is still there and that is called Pompelia House. But it's not a house in which Pompelia lived, it's really a trade building. It's a tannery and print shop. Already the Pisa is rising on the foundations, but as Father Epal often says, this Pisa splits, cracks everywhere. The principles of Rondelet are not based on Antipodean clay. A clay which was thought to be very good is now seen to be very bad. Well, we're in God's hands. When the historic place is restored, Pompelia House, in the reconstruction, one of the things they did was open up some of the walls so you could see the tops of the walls, and the footprints of the guys pressing down the rammed earth can still be seen, and so we know that their shoe leather was wearing thin. I entreat you to let my parents know that I'm still well, that this country is one of the best for health, if you put aside the wear and tear of ministry, which can be harmful anywhere. I'm studying Maori and English. I've received my music books. I had already experienced a need for them because we have young English people to whom I'm teaching singing. Already they've sung in chapel English and Latin hymns, and they could sing more in French, ones of which they know the first verse well. I lacked the instrument I was best at and which would help me here to accompany the children. It's my flute, which you've forgotten to send me, because I had brought it to Puilata in a little cloth cover. It was among the things that could not be put into the trunks and boxes, with the result that it stayed with you. I'm sending some little curiosities to my parents and to the teachers at Nesimia. So he hasn't forgotten the school he's from, and he's sending items from New Zealand back that the teachers can show the students. One of the things that makes it possible to reconstruct something of Garin's life is that he wrote heaps. He wrote many thousands of letters, and he kept diaries. He kept registers of the letters he wrote with a brief summary as to their content. On average, Garin was writing about 240 words a day in his diary. On special occasions, he'd write 4 times as much. Each month takes up about 50 pages of a little notebook, and not all of these notebooks have survived. So there's some years we know about in considerable detail, but then if we come to a gap in the series, there'll be years that we don't know as much of. Here's his diary for July 1842. I travel from time to time through the various parts of the Bay of Islands. With a bit of bread and a little pork in a Maori basket, I embark in the boat with 2 brothers, and out there we wander, sometimes toward one tribe and sometimes toward another. If thirst overtakes us while we're eating our dry bread and salty pork, we soak this crust in the seawater to slake our thirst. Having arrived among the natives, we gratefully receive potatoes, kumaras, fish or squash cooked on heated stones. Then fitting to our mouths a little hole in a gourd which serves the natives as a bottle, we moisten what we have chewed with a good drink of fresh water. When the meal has been finished, the bell announces the time for prayer. We worship God better than in the finest churches. Prayer is followed by a short instruction and the singing of some canticle or hymn about the main truths of religion. Already night has come. The native lights his pipe and leads us into the house, which must shelter us during the night. A mat as thin as a sheet spread on the ground will serve us for our bed, our bags for pillows, and sometimes exhaustion leads to rest. Indeed, you have to be a bit tired to sleep, because you're stifled by the smoke from the fire and the pipes, and by the heat produced by the crush of a great number of people gathered together in so narrow a space. The pipes are tobacco pipes. That's not everything. Just when you're on the point of falling asleep, a great silence occurs. The chief has spoken. He has spoken to the priest. Well now, priest, speak to us. Go on, talk, talk. And therefore, it's better that you can instruct them than in the church, because you have the whole night to spend talking to them. If the priest stops talking, the native goes on well into the night. Day soon comes, and the missionary says, I have to leave. But you've got to have prayers, says the native, and then after you've eaten, you'll leave. He describes the Bay of Islands. In this bay, I number 3 chiefs with hearts that are quite well disposed towards priests, and a lot of natives are still fervent in attending prayers. The others are a bit less fervent. We have as well a chief's wife, a widow. She's called Peata. She's one of the most zealous women that could be seen. She has a lot of influence among the chiefs, even the 2 greatest in this part of the island, Rewa and Moka. Among them, she's quite outstanding in virtue. And later, she is to join with Suzanne Aubert and become a member of her congregation. So there is a photo of Peata with Suzanne Aubert and the children they're looking after. This is the Daughters of Our Lady of Compassion. Up until this point, Garin has been living and working from the mission station in the Bay of Islands. Now he's sent out by Bishop Pompelia to be on his own and work directly with the Māori rather than the relatively cosmopolitan Bay of Islands. Bishop Pompelia then sent me to Mangakahia, up the Kaipara River. To get there I went overland across the island via Waihapu, with a boat as far as Ruku's place, then 2 days walking, 3 days altogether. I was in Mangakahia from 1843 until December 1847, a total of 4 years. While he was still at Katiwha, because he actually goes between two places while he's on this mission, Father Garin took on two Maori boys to work with him, Kaperiri and Matthew. Matthew Tahunu, the son of Tofonga and Korihi from Pararaumati, was baptized 19th November 1843 at the age of 14. Kaperiri Hauroa, the son of Tefera and Temanu from Ngawakarara, was baptized a week later by Garin, 26th November, aged 12. Matthew, Kaperiri and Garin would have a lasting influence on each other. When some Maori tribes encountered a person whom they thought influential and positively inclined towards them, they would get a young teen to act as the servant of this person, and the person would be expected to act as the patron for the young man and educate them, help them, and in return they'd look after him. So here's a 14-year-old and 12-year-old stuck in alongside a priest who was in the middle of nowhere. At his first mission station, cooking was done outside. The house leaked, there was no floor, and the local dogs often invaded. When Garin moved his station further down the river to a base near Tangataroa, which he called Hato Irene, he erected a sizable house, a chapel, servants' quarters, a small flour mill, a hectare of gardens, a chicken coop, a boat shed, and a wine press. He wrote in 1844, "The isolation I find myself in and the variety of my work bring about a great slackening in various points of my rule," and he's living of the religious life. "Apart from that, I'm very happy with my new position. I like this sort of life very much. Visiting the natives, sleeping among them, putting my house into order, these are my main occupations. Although I have no religious brothers with me, I'd like one very much. I'm very happy and content with the two young natives who obey me and love me." A whole series of letters went back via his brother to his parents, and his brother kept a record of what was in each letter. So, according to his brother's summary, in 1846 he'd made his own wine, devised a wine press. Unfortunately, the wine he made wasn't good. He probably hadn't left it long enough before opening it. It had a mouldy taste. To put his wine into casks, he made a funnel out of an old tin chandelier that he used with a wooden drum. By this time, he was also planting wheat on a fairly large scale. On 27 June, Mr. Dwyer came at dawn to sow my wheat. He sowed 7 quarter pounds and half an acre, that is 7 full tin cans. Later that month, I sowed wheat today in the lower garden, 4.5 measures. So he wants to grow enough to feed himself and that he can give and trade. You shouldn't judge missionaries by the number of baptisms they do, because there's many, many, many other things they do than celebrate the sacraments. Having said that, the baptismal register does give an indication that Garin was more successful than Petit, who'd been there before him, or that Batty, who was there after him. People were constantly calling to see Garin in his temporary hut in Katiwha, and then at the house that was built for him at Hato Irene. As well as attending prayers or listening to what he had to say, people would come to trade with him, or because of his considerable reputation for curing the sick, to ask him for medications. So a couple of diary entries. We've already said morning prayers. We've had lunch. I saw some sick people. I prepared some medicine. I saw the man who'd taken over the ship. One of Paikea's wives came and asked me for some medication for her neck, which had become swollen. The swelling was hard. I made a poultice out of bread and onions and applied it to her neck. Notice there that chiefs have more than one wife. One of my main medicines is the bark of the quinquina tree, which the Māori chew or boil in water. Another sovereign remedy is laudanum, 10, 15 or 20 drops in 3 or 4 spoonfuls of water for stomach aches, kidney problems, etc. Magnesia for children, a good dose of rhubarb. These are my main medicines that give me this reputation, without mentioning eau celeste for the eyes or piro piro. Their quality is fairly widely known. From Numa's summary, when Garin is travelling, he carries with him a sort of work box or travel bag, which amounts to a little pharmacy. It's 1 foot long, 8 inches across, 3 inches thick, about the size of a laptop bag. It contains his breviary, first and second compartment, his wallet, a New Testament, Jesus Christ's call, a ritual, third compartment, small bottle of laudanum, small bottle of magnesia, rhubarb pills, quinquina wood, Epsom salts, alum in a little tin, white and black woolen threads, a 20-centimetre knife with an awl, a blade and a paper knife, a lead ink pot, a razor, a shaving brush, soap, needles, pencils in a case, metal nibs in a case, goose feathers in another case, pins in a pincushion, a comb, lip glue, a sewing awl, a very large needle, all of which are in a tin can, a tinder box, a flint, New Zealand tinder in another tin can, phosphoric matches in a tin can, also under the lid, a prayer book in the Māori language, letter paper to one side, and a mirror at the back. This travel bag is his pillow when he sleeps in Māori houses. So you can see he anticipated a lot of situations for which he wanted to be equipped. When he sets off on foot, he has his satchel hanging from his left shoulder. His rolled up raincoat is on his left shoulder. In his right hand he grips his walking stick, which is 5 or 6 foot long, and could be used in self-defense if he was attacked. He can use it as an oar when he's in a boat, and he can use it as a prop when jumping over muddy streams. And he also puts into his travelling bag a blanket and his jacket to cover him at night. In this get-up, he sets off under God's protection, accompanied by his Māori kapariri. He's 36 years of age, Kapariri's 15, and they're striding off through the Northland bush. There's a picture of what is believed to be the same Kapariri, because in 1847, another Maorist, Father Leopold Vergey, visited the Bay of Islands, and in his sketchbook he depicts several Maori, and this would be a couple of years later. Kapariri is 16, if that's him.